On the surface, he's sarcastic and intimidating, but underneath, he's kind and cares for his friends.
Now, what a nice disposition to have. It's tough to be that optimistic during a war. I'm rooting for that young man.
While boldness can be a virtue, I do hope you will bear in mind that recklessness is not.
Oh, well, you can tell he's going to be kind of a stiff, but you can also tell that his heart's in the right place. Respect.
Here come the waterworks.
Don't be ashamed of crying. I'm here to protect you. Will you protect me in return?
Aw, well, she's just a sweetheart, and she really contrasts with a character like Seth really well. Oh, everyone just feels at ease with Mercedes around. Everyone is just so grounded in this game. There's a nice mix between optimistic ambition, gentle guidance, strict discipline, and you're never going to be freaked out by anything that's
Creepity creep. Living in a land that's dark and blinded by the frigid cold. Here, creepy, creepy, creepity creep. Now, creepy, creepy, creepity creep.
Welcome to the weekend. It's Shep here from Gaming Introspection. It is the furthest possible time before more work. But don't tell that to the Blue Lion House, which is undoubtedly the most cohesive and disciplined unit of the three, as we continue our analysis into the rosters of each of the houses in Fire Emblem Three Houses. Let's begin with a real challenge, someone you would not want to get on the wrong side of in real life, Dedue. It stands to reason that Dedue, much like Hubert from Edelgard's Path, is one of the very few soldiers that you cannot recruit outside of joining Dimitri's house at the outset. He is fiercely loyal to the heir apparent king, and doesn't ever waver in this. This devotion triggers the insolence of his peers such as Felix, who sees his loyalty as a weakness that resembles a pet dog. And I have to admit, the stretches and lengths he goes, with Felix prodding him, does concern me.
Even a massacre of children, or the elderly, or your own comrades.
Without hesitation. May I ask where it is you're going?
I'm off to the library for a bit of research before I train. After that, a bath and bed.
Very well. I shall accompany you.
No. There's no need for that. I am a grown man, after all.
Really? You're going to follow the prince and watch him study, and then follow him into the bathroom to watch him bath, and then you're gonna just follow him into battle, even if he cracks and takes out his rage on the innocent and vulnerable? Loyalty is one thing, but how can you simply follow someone else's life script with that much rigidity? I mean, that's not even being human, is it? It's shown in Edelgard's Path as well, with Dedue sacrificing himself to become a monster, all to give Dimitri a slight advantage. On the surface, his skills match his appearance. He's a tall, buff soldier who sucks at magic, but excels at hand-to-hand combat, especially using gauntlets or even unarmed. However, digging deeper into his relationship arcs reveal more sensitive passions of gardening, cooking, and fishing. He's willing to talk and gradually becomes more inclined to hear out other people's problems, besides ones that involve his future king. A member of Dusker, he withholds an even darker past than other ne'er-do-well party members, having had his mother and siblings all killed and his entire people and homeland disgraced for all eternity afterwards. This horrid experience and shadow that befalls him makes him act with amazement when people simply just want to get to know him.
Why do you spend time with me?
We're friends, right? I just want to get to know you better. Is that so odd?
Friendship, for some, is so hard to come by, and this is a real-life issue as well. We shouldn't balk at the opportunities that are granted to us. He frets about Sylvain's reputation if he's found in his company. But here's where Sylvain's dismissiveness over noble standards actually helps him bond and console with someone who needs a more open soul to talk to. As Dedue bonds with more people, you find out more about Duskur. Their stance on religion, for example, being more like a Hindu or indigenous version with multiple gods.
In Duskur, there were many gods. The sky had a god. The earth had a god.
He has the life experience to lecture a much older man, Gilbert, about what it means to have one's being solely linked to a supreme ruler, and helps him change his stance from what Dedue considers self-indulgent praying to taking action for the heir to the throne. And the fact that Dedue needed to grow up so fast is what makes him compelling and almost like the adult in most of his dialogue scenes. And it's tough not to respect a man who can do that when he's that early in life.
Fargus needed you. His Highness needed you.
There was no...
Felix has a fierce confidence about him that many respect, but also an avoidant personality type that's undeniably off-putting. It's also notable that despite his pursuit of strength, Felix finds the concept of honor and chivalry absolutely loathsome, which is a key ingredient in his ill will towards his father, given his past reaction to his brother's death on the battlefield.
Chivalry begets the worship and glorification of death. Am I alone in finding that grotesque?
With this being the case, he only becomes intrigued with people who he deems stronger than himself, and suitably, your swordsmanship skill needs to be quite high in order to recruit him if he's not in your starting house. These small details, which apply to many other recruits, force the player to adapt how they themselves are progressing, in order to recruit fighters who they think would be an asset on the battlefield, as well as a romantic partner who they feel they'd be compatible with, but need to demonstrate an affinity with first. Even after recruiting, his storyline with you involves sparring matches to decide who's the better swordsman, so this never really relents. He does get overzealous in his efforts to prove himself though, and it costs him. It takes Leone only 2 seconds to dispatch him in their first challenge bout, using a disguised pit trap.
Okay, go!
Let's see what you... Huh? Ah! Ah! A pit trap?
And he sourly admits that another strategy was used to great effect. But if you spend the time to pair him with compatible party members in battle, he'll find other intriguing assets among his party members that he either didn't realize before, or subconsciously forced himself to look away from. Felix gets absolutely charmed, but also befuddled with Annette's singing of various foods, bears, and swamp beasties. He puts aside the disdain he feels when Mercedes is reminded of her little brother, because it's better for both of them to survive if that's what helps them protect each other. And when trying to express affection for Ingrid, he can only manage this.
My point is, don't let this happen again. If you died, I'd be annoyed.
Now, isn't that the most romantic and charming thing you've ever heard in your whole life? It's like,
hey, so, don't die out there. That would be really annoying. Don't inconvenience me, damn it!
Felix is an example of someone who has a predetermined base personality which looks like it's his only function. But if enough time is taken, growth does happen, even if he will always have trouble admitting it. Ash is one of my favorites. He's not in your face, bragging about his accomplishments and stressing masculine feats, but he's not a wuss either. He takes knighthood seriously and wants to be the best he can be, while also being a man of action. When Petra gets conned, Ash comes in to barter and effectively uses his humble upbringing and street smarts to dissuade Anna from overcharging her wares.
Really? Because the shop over by the gates is selling the same item for a little more than half that. Guess I'll have to head back there after all.
Hey, let's all take a deep breath. Here's the deal.
He notices the finer details about people, like how well Marianne works with animals and prepares meals for the school. There's a real spirit within him that others appreciate, because he treats others with respect and encourages them. Dedue is a bit stunned when Ash asks him more about his cooking skills. He gratefully accepts help and wants to learn about everything, including battle strategy, which Annette helps him with, and that deepens their bond, allowing Ash to hear Annette reveal small snippets involving her long, scholastic journey to get to the academy. Even though it's true when people say,
You are a peculiar person.
It's an approachable, honest kind of peculiarity that has warmth and honesty to it. I mean, he even goes out of his way to right the wrongs of common thieves that he apprehends. It's a cool juxtaposition hearing Caspar and Ash's commentary on the fate of a pantry thief. Caspar wants to just kill him and be done with him, while Ash just wants proper justice. And it makes sense, as he was a thief himself, though his circumstances were much more dire and born from a necessity of survival.
Oh, I turned to thieving. From people on the streets, from shops, even from soldiers.
He has a couple goofy skits too, including a secondary thievery attempt, which turns out to be... Yeah. Not everyone would be able to turn their lives around just because some plucky, encouraging individual told them to. If you ever find someone who you think these words would benefit,
I genuinely enjoy helping people. It's a great feeling making someone smile.
just quote some Fire Emblem to them, or show them this game. Who knows? It might make a difference. Sylvain is unique in that his brother features as a pretty big antagonist in the first half of the game, mutating into one of the first actual huge bosses you are required to take down with multiple health bars and area of effect attacks. It's intense. He's got some depth built into his arc, even if you don't have anything to do with him, as you learn his brother fell victim to jealousy, not having the crest that Sylvain was born with, and giving in to the lustful power of the forbidden weapons. I have a feeling Sylvain tries to repress this family drama, as he sees his crest as a nuisance, giving him an air of lightness that's much more casual than someone like Ferdinand. And with such heavy burdens of family turmoil, it makes sense that he doesn't see all these supposed benefits that a rich, wealthy noble is supposed to have. He's talented enough to get by without working too much, and explores the much more thrilling task of skirt chasing instead.
So, maybe we... And then, I was wondering if maybe you and me could...
I'm quite busy. I should get going. Bye.
That was difficult to watch.
Despite his ease of dating women, he realizes that it's often born out of a want for them to be secured by his status. This comes to the forefront when Lawrence, who has a rod up the rod that's up his butt, chastises Sylvain for his promiscuity. Several of his comrades have a personality that flat out force Sylvain to show some sincerity, like Lysithea, who has absolutely no tolerance for condescending behavior. He knows that he can't even have a platonic relationship with her if he's only flattering her and using smart-ass quips, so he has to relent.
That was quite a sigh. What's wrong, Ingrid?
Ingrid, his longtime friend, has become so demoralized with his flirting over even their childhood that she doesn't even give him the light of day.
When you were 8, you came on to my sweet, sweet granny. My granny!
She shuts him down quick, and he can only secure his bond with her by actually doing mature things, like training when he arrives at the training ground. The ensuing battle practice pushes him to realize that, yeah, he's going to have to protect Ingrid to actually make things work, not just spew a few catchphrases at her. And unlike Lorenz and Ferdinand, who can't seem to see past their own reflections most of the time, Sylvain has more moments, with more people, that showcase how deep down he knows his approach isn't going to work forever, and he has to change. And that's all we can ask of anyone and of ourselves. There's always something to work on.
Sorry, but we're all out of cakes. Should I bake some more? Oh, to do. Was there something you needed? Is there something we can do for you, good sir? I'll gladly share some with you. You're welcome to come visit my room whenever you'd like.
Here's a case where a character's voice actress matches the in-game counterpart perfectly. How could you get angry at a character who is this motherly and sweet? It makes so much sense for Mercedes to be the best white magic user in this game. She's fairly reserved, yet inside very optimistic and uplifting.
Tell me more.
Why? Dusker is a ruin.
Dusker may be gone, but you're still here. Would you tell me more about it the next time we meet?
If you insist.
I'm looking forward to hearing more soon.
Dusker is gone, but I'm still here.
Being so devout, she still has her own personal goals of teaching within the church, and she catches on rather quickly to any tricks or veils people try and slide over her. This is evident with Sylvain, where she's clearly in the know about how he really feels about the ladies who just seem to fall into his lap.
Your secret's safe with me.
Aw, here come the waterworks.
To get Sylvain, of all people, to shed an honest tear, that requires a special type of kindness and authenticity, and this is Mercedes' greatest strength. Another noteworthy example is with Lawrence. Despite his professional sounding and genuinely pleasant enough looking helpfulness when he accidentally causes her injury, she realizes that he never once looks her in the eye, confirming that despite his words, and even despite his base actions, he really does deem commoners of lower status. She's not infallible though, overreacting to Annette's well-intentioned defense against bandits, and then promptly apologizing afterwards. In lesser games, if there's a sweet, demure character like this, they are usually one-dimensional with no negative attributes that can affect their standing. But Mercedes has failures too. Marriage proposal issues also arise. This is common within this game, I've noticed, and this helps her bond with classmates like Ingrid who have waded through similar trials. I mean, even when confiding this to the professor about her adoptive father nonchalantly giving her off to some noble, her big response is that she wouldn't have the strength to say no, despite what her heart tells her. Her genuine sweetness is divine though regardless. She's one of the few characters to whom sensitive people like Ignatz can open up their real problems to, and that's because she has very little to hide, and probably more patience than the goddess she worships. It's fantastic.
Today's dinner is steak and then a cake that's yummy yum.
Huh. So what can we say about Annette? Annette is... how do I put this?
Creepity creep. Living in a land that's dark and blinded by the frigid cold, creeping through the loneliness for ages untold.
She's kind of quirky and...
Now it's time to fill my tummy tum.
She'd be crazy! No. Let's try that again.
One of the top magic users in the game, Annette has a stereotypical try-hard personality, never satisfied with her own already amazing skills, wanting everyone and everything to always be 100% the best that they can always be.
I'll protect everyone.
Her downfall is that everything, even layers of dust, become the target of her obsession for excellence. This girl needs to relent now and then. After all, if we don't narrow things down, things can become overwhelming, especially in our younger years. But as Byleth helps her see, it's fruitless to try and combat our inherent nature. If we've always been ambitious, then that's just a constant in our lives that we should take pride in. Same as if we're naturally able to relax, bring energy to the party, or help people feel at ease. Hold on to what makes you the special person that you are, because lying to yourself has no benefits whatsoever. Contrasting this dilemma of life and work balance are social trees that show off her more, creative side. The game gives not one, but two romantic interests spontaneously finding her singing in the garden two completely different songs while she's watering flowers. What the hell is this about? And the one with Claude turns into the most hypothetical, convoluted series of riddles. He symbolizes the creepy lyrics with regretful, dying souls who creepily, steadily climb up from the underworld to wreak havoc on living beings, while the truth is, it's just a literal seed creeping up from the soil, making much more sense when you consider the happy melody. She has some of the most bizarre and entertaining snippets that help endear you to her larger-than-life personality.
Who put this stupid barrel here?
Annette also contends with a klutziness that shows up on occasion, setting fires to the kitchen, stumbling over boxes and barrels, and it eventually manifests in a very unexpected but creative relationship progression within her bond with Hilda.
Don't want to get in your way. Great. See you later. Annette? Oh no, my face. Oh my goodness! I am so sorry! I'll clean it up right... Ah! Not again!
There's more down-to-earth stuff too, like when she's engaging in her studies and finds that Lysithea rivals both her aptitude for magic and her work ethic. It transforms into some heated banter that makes Annette reconsider the way she approaches others, before ending amicably, with both girls having gained respect for the other's abilities.
I really don't understand that girl.
Me neither, Felix, but she's fine just the way she is.
I'm not playing around, Bernadetta. This training is absolutely crucial to your future.
Here's another one of my favorites, and like Mercedes, I believe Ingrid's voiceover actress really fits her to a T. Lacking any flirtatious or whimsical qualities, it really helps convey her as a straight-laced, tomboyish soldier, with duty and knighthood always coming before pleasure. And honestly, she can be harsh, to the point of being unnecessarily callous to people who are simply trying to protect or help her during the fires of war. She even literally breaks the door down to Bernadetta's room to force her to train, not caring at all about the obvious emotional difficulty the poor girl's been feeling.
Really? This is like straight out of a Friday the 13th movie or something. How much trust could you ever place in someone if you were just chilling in your room and all of a sudden they burst through the door with an axe?
Thankfully, Ingrid undergoes maturation in this regard. After Ignaz gets demoralized by her radical demands toward his artwork, she realizes that not everyone responds well to too much aggression, understanding we sometimes put the blinders on towards others.
It's important to be open to others as well. By doing so, we discover new paths for ourselves, and we can become better in ways we may never have imagined.
Exactly.
And in the right cases, when used with a bit more tact, it does help oafs like Raphael shape up to achieve a more professional, knightly standard. Besides, this ferocity is balanced by some ineptitude when it comes to her behaving like a traditional young woman. Her relationship tree has examples of this, like Annette, who we just talked about, asking her permission to teach her the basic of makeup and fancy dresses. Or Dorothea, who promises to make her the most beautiful person, even though Ingrid is merely invited as a spectator to the opera performance Dorothea is participating in. Despite her combat proficiency and otherwise stoic traits, she has a fairly lengthy character arc, detailing her hesitancy to accept a marriage proposal to ensure her family's health and status, being from a noble family that really doesn't have a lot compared to most others at the monastery. This can lead to a full-on paralogue battle where you have to save her from a creep and his soldiers. There's tragedy hiding behind her disposition as well, as she has already lost an upstanding knight that she had once been betrothed to, and finds a lot of what's happened since to be at loose ends. I root for Ingrid so much, especially seeing her find so much chemistry with Ash in the tall tale literature both of them enjoy, marking the beginning of what I think is her best romantic pairing. She even finds a girlish friend in Mercedes, establishing a routine tea time where they can share their grievances and learn about each other. Ingrid is inspiring. If you're not the same as many of your peers, just say screw it. You'll find your people in due time. Okay, full disclosure, I haven't played through enough to get all the support conversations, and this is a huge deal when it comes to Yurita, because he's only got 3 in the entire base game, and one of those is with Bernadetta? What the hell is going on? Byleth has to have one because that's the main character, and Mercedes makes sense because she's obviously got a familial connection going on with Yurita as established in one of the paralogue assignments and in Edelgard's path. But Bernadetta? The first time, she sees him as the Death Knight and faints. The second time, she's all about getting to know what's going on in that head of his? Oh.
It's just bizarre how one of the most delicate, frightened, shut-in, quiet characters gets a full-on support link with the Death Knight.
What's the matter?
There's some funny moments here though, especially with Byleth, as soon as the image shows up and he's like,
I am partaking in some sweet delights. Is there a problem?
It just tears apart the intimidation facade his alter ego relies on to establish fear on the battlefield. But I have to be honest, I not only don't have all the links, I don't have any maxed ones for Yurita yet, so please let me know which are the most thoughtful and entertaining ones to pursue. He's difficult to talk about as, even in these skits, he keeps his cards very close to his vest. Seth is the straight man of the faculty. He's like the no-nonsense principal you might have been scared of in elementary school, or the drill sergeant that lines people up and asks them what their major malfunction is. When someone appears so rigid and taciturn from the outside, it just invites speculation about what their inner drive and soul conceals. It's not surprising that he has some of his deepest social links with the most devoted and hardworking students like Ingrid, knowing that internal motivation and sincerity creates the most worthwhile people. There's a lot here to unpack though, because conversely, he has a link with the total opposite, Hilda, which begins with each of them in their standard states. Hilda not wanting to do, well, anything, and Seth not being able to stand someone not doing anything. Notice the popular fairy tale of work versus sloth he tries to employ with her. But then this takes a surprising turn when he asks Hilda of the moral of the story. The squirrel, yeah, gets all the supplies ready, but doesn't do a damn thing to help the fox. But he uses this to his advantage, convincing Hilda to back up her spirited comments and help him out. Continuing on his narrative works, this enables Seth to create a pretty unexpected bond between himself and Bernadetta, who would be expected to cower and flee in his presence.
I won't disturb you ever again!
Wait, Bernadetta.
Oh, I guess she actually did do that to start with. My bad. But after she recovers, she learns of the tale of Saint Indek, who shares the shyness that hampers Bernie so much. This makes her open up and dedicate characters in her book to his likeness. Unlike characters like Alois or Manuela though, Seth never really reaches a borderline cartoonish stretch with any of his personality reveals. Even when you peel back his layers, you still see a more expected philosophical approach that he shares with his students. Whether it's Leone and the peace found in lazily fishing by oneself, even if you don't catch anything, or the blunt and accurate assessment of Felix's distancing.
If you hate all those whose beliefs are different from yours, you will hate everyone eventually.
That's a powerful quote right there, and something only someone as experienced and wise as Seth has the right to say. It's obvious from the very beginning, like literally 5 minutes in, that Flayn is going to have a crush on the professor.
Ah, wonderful. I was hoping you might enlighten me. About yourself, that is.
She just verbally throws herself at him in a sweet, innocent way. But she gets so sidetracked in her blathering speeches, which I can relate to, and it can frustrate others pretty easily. It becomes obvious early on that she, along with Seth and Rhea, have existed for millennia, and that she is indeed Sethlene herself. This alter ego makes for some funny social links, and I'll save one of them for now. But let's start with Ignatz, the talented artist who is enamored with the former saint. He desires strict historical accuracy and information to capture her inner beauty before actually beginning his painting, to which Flayn protests because she wants him to paint the saint, who is actually her, in a specific way. I'm not sure what this whole interaction is trying to capture. She wants Ignatz to paint her in a way that makes her superior to her former self? To prove to herself that she's gotten better, I guess? It's a bit perplexing. Flayn's literal interpretations can sometimes put people like Sylvain in their place.
Your voice like birdsong, your eyes clear as diamonds. But above all, I'm drawn to your kind and loving heart. I am a captive to your charms, Flayn.
I hear that very frequently. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess a girl as cute as you would get a lot of compliments.
However, non-intentionally. And her pureness also succeeds in creating one of the few wholesome and tolerable romantic situations involving Ferdinand. What starts as a simple mistaken fragrance of armor oil builds into a full-blown romance, with her naivety just bursting with cuteness and subduing Ferdinand's usual bravado, since he actually feels similarly bashful. This is pretty adorable to work through, I have to admit, and I can't imagine how Seth would react if he was privy to any of these conversations. But I'm also confused. Haven't we established that Flayn is the reincarnation or the reawakening of the actual Saint Sethleen? Doesn't she have thousands of years of memories and relationships? And yet, with all these cute, innocent reactions, she genuinely seems to be as young as she pretends to be. Please help me out, Fire Emblem community. What game is she playing here? The most predictable skits are between her and Seth, and they're probably among the worst in the game. It takes that tired old overprotective father thing and just goes all the way with it, full of teenage angst and rebellion that any teenager who's watched a Netflix high school drama ever could have written. And why does she bother calling him brother? They're speaking in private. I know it's supposed to conceal the reality that Seth is actually her father, if the player hasn't found that plot point yet, but if that's the case, shouldn't they have locked their interactions until the player goes through the paralogue that proves this? I mean, like I said, they're talking in private. It makes absolutely no sense to call him brother. Still, the sappiness does earn some heartstring tugs by the end, when the time skip happens and...
Father.
Don't.
See? Oh, damn it. Let's move on. Move on. So I really need Fire Emblem fans' expertise again. What is the deal with Elmira? Is it like a big impact location in the Fire Emblem world?
Are there tons of hard-working, diligent folks in Elmira? This is another great reference, at least I'm assuming, of other Fire Emblem material, and in this case it's used to showcase Cyril's upbringing. His seriousness really makes for some great comic foil, especially when paired with someone a little less ambitious like Hilda. It's insane how much this guy works. Check out all these samples.
The Church of Saros, so I always make sure it's all sparkling clean. I'll take care of it. I'm cleaning the place anyways. Nah, I was just asked to go out and buy the stuff on this list. Sweeping the floors, dusting the shelves, restacking the books. I've been so busy I still haven't eaten. I need a nap, but I still gotta get the dining hall cleaned up. Heck, I'd do more than I do now if there were hours in the day. But I can't go without sleep. Tried once. You must think I'm pretty weird, huh, Professor?
Why are you doing all of this by yourself?
Oh, I'm helping out the kid whose job it is. He says I'm making him look bad, but I'm just happy to help. If you see him, then find me, please, and tell me where you saw him, okay? Because then I'll know where he is. I'll be in the stables if you need me. Gotta put out the fodder, but if I'm not in the stables and you need to find me, I'll be at the forest up north, because there's a bunch of logs lying around up there. If it looks like I'm done there, then the quarters need to be swept. So if you see Seth and you need to find me, then I might be there.
He cannot stand to have any help, even if there's absolutely no practicality behind it. Check this out. Like, that would be the worst, most time-consuming method to solve things, and it would take away from other time he could actually use to really work. It's complete self-sabotage. He's also very dismissive at first of talking about future aspirations or dreams. It's great to live in the present moment, but if you devote your whole being to labor, believe me, it might not seem like it then, but looking back, you won't have as many standout memories to enjoy when you're older. A noteworthy bond here is found between Cyril and Ash. He begrudgingly has to admit that Ash's assistance is helpful, and that, with both of them having humble upbringings, it's not a huge deal for them to help each other. He even entertains the thought of actually having a friend, although it initially seems like such a foreign concept. And he definitely stumbles through here. Watch this!
Those monsters might still be out there.
Ash! I'd heard you'd gone missing, so I started looking for you everywhere. Here, I brought you a map. You can use this to get home later, right?
You came all this way for that? Alone? It's dangerous out here.
So Cyril risks his life. He traverses like a whole bunch of dangerous terrain on his own, and then his endgame is to deliver a map to Ash before then separating from him, leaving both of them in unfamiliar, dangerous territory so that they can both try separately to get back to the monastery on their own. Do you think there's maybe some short-sightedness to that plan?
Thankfully, he finds his way through to seeing the true benefits of friendship, and the split punishment arc at the end is a perfect way to show this. Through the good and the bad, friends are just
True.
there for each
We're
other.
friends, though, aren't we? I'd say friends stick together, through good and bad. So, let's split the blame. That's what friends are for.
Wow, so that's what friends are for. Okay then.
Shamir is an enigma, and she knows it. She prefers to keep many details of her past secretive, though she will answer if pinned down about it. But she can be very intimidating, especially to more sensitive party members like Ignatz, who good-naturedly just want to gain some information from her, or get to know her better.
Finished meditating. Speak.
No, it's not. You're probably tired anyway.
Always be willing to speak and ask questions. Understood?
Yes, understood.
Yikes. And then, when he does have the guts to finally ask her something, she's like,
And I thought you might...
I will not.
Sorry?
There's no point in me telling you about it.
wow. Even praise is very tough to come by with her. Younger party members are bursting with enthusiasm as they better their skills, flocking over to the legendary mercenary, hoping for the rewards of praise, and it's like,
You were fine.
nah, you were fine. But she definitely knows what she's doing, detailing why fine is all the praise that was necessary, and explaining how curved shots work much better if they are mastered. It's really cool how this is actually true in the real combat as well. Curved shots have better range and better accuracy than a normal shot. Like Byleth, she's a mercenary by trade, but she sticks much closer to the usual description. Emotionless, not bound or rattled by the fates of her enemies, at least that's how she was in the past. As featured in her talks with Petra, Shamir gains understanding that it's not just her that enjoys the people she's fighting for, despite her home country being against the Empire. And later, that she now would consider herself joining the fight for Fodlan, even if other factions like Dagdans invaded, which is a remarkable shift from her previous stance. It's a great example of how the time skip of 5 years changes some of the characters in very meaningful ways. My favorite arc for Shamir is how her total disconnect between the Church of Seros becomes a tough sell for her longtime partner Catherine, who is over the moon about Lady Rhea.
It's not easy to put your life in the hands of someone who doesn't share your beliefs.
I understand. I think we can both agree on that.
The sharing your beliefs quote is powerful. It also showcases her surprisingly strong intuition. It's touching to see them bond as close as they do in the end, and the ending that features them continuing to be there for each other makes the most sense to me. I gotta be honest, I was very distant from Catherine at the start. In the first playthrough, I never even tried to recruit her, despite her prominence in the opening acts of the story. Just seemed like a high and mighty knight who knows how to use the hero's relics, and that was it. But when you start to hear her detailed combat explanations when training with Ingrid or Leonie, how she pretty much is able to counterattack anything thrown at her, you realize the Thunderbrand sword is just that. Thunder may make a lot of noise and instill fear, but the lightning-fast reflexes and anticipation, that's what does the work, regardless of the weapon. And she's got a sense of humor, too.
Catherine, I'd be honored if you would make me your squire.
All right then, why not? Let's start by teaching you how to flirt with handsome men.
Pardon me? That can't possibly be where you want to start.
Nah, I was just kidding. I wish I knew how to flirt with handsome men. Instead...
And thankfully, she puts Lorenz in his place for once, or at least tries to.
If the few did not have capabilities to set them apart from the many, then they would not be the few.
Wow, you really think nobles are better than everyone else, don't you?
Explaining that the worth of a person, and what makes them who they are, can't be dissected or traced or valued through any lineage, noble or otherwise. She has some surprising social links too, such as with the scholarly mage Lysithea, who is constantly trying to stay both stressed and focused. They only start to chat because of Catherine's intuition about Lysithea's crest. With the knowledge gained that they share the same crest, it helps them feel a certain kinship. Hopefully, the more relaxed Catherine will be able to persuade Lysithea to let her herself loose a bit more. It's a nice touch for the writers to use the crests as a bonding feature among two warriors who would otherwise really have no enticing incident to ever spend time together. I do think her devotion to Rhea is a bit scary. I mean, listen to this.
I will cut down anyone, even a child, for the sake of my mission. I told you I would cut down children with no hesitation. You look disgusted. I take it that's the part you're struggling to accept?
Pretty much. I don't think I'd be able to do it, even if that meant disobeying orders.
For once, I'm with Caspar here. That's just too dark. I don't care what your allegiance is, you don't even speak about that. But there's one jaded piece of wisdom that does make sense if we think about actually being on the battlefield. The need to make quick, split-second decisions. That robs our ability to be fair and just to everyone. And that's one of the worst parts of war, or at least that's what I'm imagining. Thankfully today, in our part of the world, and hopefully for the foreseeable future, we won't have to debate this from a personal history standpoint.
Wow, we covered a lot of characters today. From girls who sing creepy songs to characters who are just creepy all the time. Join me next Friday as we wind up our character study with Claude's Golden Deer House. And if you're new to the channel, please check out the first episode in this trilogy. Thanks so much for being here, gamers. It's the weekend. Go and enjoy it.